Something kinda big happened with BTS yesterday at the time I'm writing this. As an ARMY since 2016, why not take this opportunity to talk about it? So yesterday the rest of the BTS members enlisted into the military. For those that may not know, it was Jimin, Taehyung and Jungkook. Jhope and Suga already enlisted months ago. Of course, ARMYs all over social media were crying and sobbing about it. Do you guys know that I used to dread these days back in my early and mid days of being a full-blown obsessed ARMY? Thinking back, I used to think that I wouldn't know what to even do once all the BTS members enlisted into their mandatory service. I legit thought I was gonna be extremely bored once they left. It terrified me to even think that I could possibly lose interest in them. These were literal fears I had back in 2018 to 2021, but seokjin went in 2022, then Jhope left. Then my baby yoongi left and that hurt me a little bit, not gonna lie. And then just yesterday the rest of them left and I felt nothing. I wasn't sad or anything. I was definitely sad when Jhope and Yoongi left because I wasn't used to them leaving yet, but with the rest of them, Namjoon, Jimin, Taehyung and Jungkook, I didn't feel anything. I don't know if it's because I know what to expect now or what, but it was a little odd for me. If I was able to travel back in time back to my 2018 self and told her how nonchalant and not sad I felt when the members left to the military, she would not believe me at all. She would most likely cry in fear that I had lost interest in them and it was her worst fear come true. So I guess the question now is, did I actually lose some interest in BTS? I honestly don't really think so, but at the same time I do feel the extreme burnout I caused for myself. I said in my video about ARMYs how I completely burnt myself out on BTS because I watched content of them for 5 or 6 years straight every single day. That's not a lie or an exaggeration. I'm being so for real. Hyperfixations can be very strong for people with autism like me. BTS was mostly all I thought about and cared about from 2016 all the way to maybe 2021. I started feeling the burnout in 2021, so that's when I realized that I needed a huge break from the group, and especially the fandom. A huge chunk of that burnout was also caused by the fandom ARMYs. I think ever since 2018 or 2019 when BTS really started to gain massive global popularity, the fandom got progressively worse around that time too. I know it makes sense that every time a fandom gets bigger it gets more toxic because more toxic people join in. Statistically, more people joining a fandom also means the ratio for toxic fans increase. Very basic fandom math. I actually don't know if I talked about this in my video about ARMYs. If I didn't, I must have forgotten to talk about it. ARMYs pretty much completely morphed from a fandom that genuinely and wholeheartedly loved and respected the BTS members with their entire heart, to them being reduced to objects and sex symbols. ARMYs also really started to only care about getting BTS every single achievement possible, like always feeling like they had to break records every time they released new music or got nominated for something. Before some ARMY discovers this monologue and tries to twist my words up, of course I believe BTS deserve every single award and should break every record they possibly can, but when it's gotten to the point where I've seen ARMYs legitimately get angry at other ARMYs for not streaming something enough to break a record or reach a milestone, and constantly talking about having to make a BTS song reach the Billboard Hot 100 within the top 5 at least. ARMYs only seeming to care about breaking records for BTS and keeping them at the top above everyone else. They've built this reputation onto themselves where it looks like all ARMYs care about now is keeping BTS at the top of the top. The 1% of the 1% within the K-pop industry, making them very untouchable to where no one can or is even allowed to criticize them at all. It's to the point where literal music critics, y'all know the people that critique music as their job? Even they have to be careful when they give a review on a BTS song or album to avoid getting goddamn threats from ARMYs. The fact that ARMYs go above and beyond to protect and defend BTS is exactly why I think that genuine love and respect for them isn't really there anymore. A good chunk of the fandom sees them as either gods that need to be protected, or sex objects that can fulfill all of their fantasies. I honestly didn't mean to rant about ARMY again, but I guess I'm still very salty about how much the fandom has changed. I was actually shocked when I made my shorts video talking about Namjoon saying you guys have changed and a Weverse lived to ARMYs. And I got so many comments from thankfully mature ARMYs saying that they agreed with me. Thankfully I am nowhere near the only ARMY that felt this way about the fandom. It's nice to know that other mature ARMYs that still love and respect BTS like humans feels the same way I do. The fact that Namjoon said that in a Weverse live and it actually sent the fandom into a panic just shows that something is very wrong now. If Namjoon himself is able to recognize it, that's when you know something is up. He's an extremely intelligent man, so he doesn't just say things like that out of nowhere or to f with people. That obviously means something is wrong and needs to be fixed. But anyway, I am a bit burned out from BTS, so that could be why I wasn't sad when seeing them all enlist. I'm honestly hoping while the members are away, the fandom corrects themselves and stops tolerating toxic behaviors. I know the overprotecting BTS thing is never ever gonna go away or ease up at all. That's been a thing since the second year after they debuted. Plus ARMYs still love getting that sweet high engagement every time they write tweets or make entire videos talking about how much BTS went through even before they debuted. They're so obsessed with BTS underdog story that they apply it every single time BTS gets criticized, or an American interviewer asks the members stupid questions. Even when BTS sit there and do nothing. Somebody on Twitter will tweet about the members went through so much and they're so inspiring to power through all of it and achieved so many things their enemies never thought they ever would. I was on ARMY Twitter for years and I saw those BTS underdog story tweets at least every 2 to 3 business days. I'm not even joking. BTS basically ended up having the perfect underdog story in their past for their fans to constantly victimize them every single chance they get. Did I also participate in making very similar underdog story tweets about BTS? Of course I did. I was literally obsessed with them back then. I can literally go back to my old tweets and find a plethora of tweets defending them from other fandoms, stupid interviewers, music critics that rightfully critique them, etc, etc. I literally became that annoying overprotective ARMY that I now despise about the fandom. It's encouraged and basically required to defend BTS as soon as you join the fandom now, because back then I don't really know if it was reinforced that much. Back then most ARMYs started defending them on impulse because of their underdog backstory. Plus some scandals the group got into that prompted everyone to send hate their way. Nowadays when people become ARMYs, if you're not seen defending or protecting BTS from anything that's slightly critical of them, suddenly you're not a real ARMY and you need to leave the fandom immediately. Those are their words and thoughts, not mine. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know exactly how bad it would get until this very year. You know what, while I'm already here I might as well talk a bit about the N-word controversy. Not the Namjoon one, the Taehyung one, the newest one. So some months ago, Taehyung was doing his usual Weverse live and at some point he sang along to a song that uttered the N-word. And apparently Taehyung either fully sang the N-word or just lip-synced to it. I don't actually know what happened honestly. I never watched the footage myself to see exactly what went down. But ARMY's reaction afterwards was a bit appalling. They literally ignored the whole incident and pretended it didn't happen at all. Some ARMYs went as far as to defend Taehyung for saying the N-word, that they don't even care that he said it. This was allegedly actual black ARMYs saying all of this. Like no one addressed it, no one talked about it. Even big channels and accounts on YouTube and TikTok completely avoided talking about that incident. To be fair, a lot of big ARMY YouTube channels and TikTok accounts are non-black, so maybe they thought it wasn't their place to talk about it, which is fine. But in my opinion they could have at least talked about how it was wrong for ARMYs to sweep it under the rug like it didn't happen. Like how is the fandom at the point now where when BTS members actually do something wrong, ARMYs close their eyes and look the other way pretending they didn't see anything? Weren't y'all the same fandom that pressured BTS into doing something to bring awareness to the Black Lives Matter movement back in 2020? Now in 2023, you're actually allowing a BTS member to say a slur against black people because suddenly black ARMYs don't care about that word being used by him? If this was a different idol from a whole different group, the backlash would be instantaneous. ARMYs would use that moment to praise BTS for being so unproblematic. It's happened before, but since a BTS member said it, it's actually fine because he just sang the word. The double standards are outrageous, but it's also unsurprising. The fandom is at the point where a BTS member can literally say a slur and ARMYs will sweep it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen, because they would rather ignore it than criticize the members. So now no one is allowed to criticize BTS even when they do something wrong. Damn. I'm starting to think a lot of black K-pop stans don't care about their own social justice issues when it comes to their K-pop faves. Well, I already knew that K-pop stans in general are extremely performative in everything just to make themselves look 100% morally good. I'll give you all this huge reminder. Horrible people always hide behind good causes. The examples are religious groups, social justice issues, politics, etc. It's exactly why I personally think a lot of people who consider themselves as far left on the political spectrum are secretly horrible people. In case you don't understand what I mean. People who call themselves liberals or people who are left-wing in politics are often seen as people who actually care about everyone's basic human rights, right? They support the LGBTQA+ community. bring awareness to social issues with people of color, discourage fat phobia and skinny shaming, wanting people who are physically and/or mentally disabled to get the proper help they need and take mental health more seriously, advocate for women's rights and feminism. Basically, left-wing people don't want anyone to be restricted or ostracized by society just because of who they are. I should have just said it like that without making it complicated, lol. Anyway, from what I've seen over the years, people who are extremely outspoken about these social justice issues and movements have always been eventually outed as a horrible person. It's actually a psychological thing where bad people will overcompensate by trying to appear as a good person that does good things, because they don't want to be shunned by people for being a terrible person. And sometimes these people don't actually know that they're a terrible person, or they don't believe it if they're told what they did wrong. So whenever I see or hear about someone calling themselves a strong liberal, or a huge advocate for things like women's rights, gay and trans rights, or a very common one I see is strong advocacy for mental health, I instantly have some suspicions about that person. I've seen this happen both in the K-pop community and in the art commentary community, and the art community in general. That's why whenever I see K-pop stans yelling and screaming about some idol doing cultural appropriation or something, I don't take it seriously ever. I don't think anyone actually cares about a non-black person wearing braids. They just want to think they're doing something to protect black people or whatever. I'm a black woman saying this, by the way. Armies don't respect BTS as humans anymore. I'm glad they went to the military so the fandom can hopefully chill out.